protected under our Constitution.
Where does it say a handgun is protected?
No, gun. We should, every
It doesn't say
citizen...
gun. It says arms.
What is arms?
It could be a nuclear weapon.
That's right. Could be a nuclear weapon.
Do you think you should have the right to have weapons-grade plutonium here in the farm?
We should be able to have anything.
Should you have weapons-grade plutonium?
I don't want it.
But should you have the right to have it if you did want it?
That should be restricted.
Oh, so you do believe in some restrictions?
Well, there's wackos out there.
What is happening, mediocre people of YouTube? What's going on, man? So I've been wanting to do this video for a while, since November, since this shit went down. Those of you who follow this channel, you guys know I'm a hockey fan. Detroit Red Wings. You kind of like, even growing up in Detroit, you kind of like have to play hockey of some sort, and it's just it's a Detroit thing, man. It's an everywhere thing, but it's a Detroit thing, big time. But what I wanted to talk about back in November was the Toronto Maple Leafs firing of Mike Babcock. And when I read this article, I couldn't believe it. I said, "Wow, the Maple Leafs fired Mike Babcock." And if you don't know who Mike Babcock is, he was the Detroit Red Wings coach for 10 years. Here in Detroit, a highly successful coach, and all the fans and everybody liked him and all that stuff, and yet he wasn't one of those coaches that you heard, oh yeah, the players really like him. You might hear the players respect him, but you didn't hear that they liked him. Versus what we have now. Now we have Jeff Blashill, who from the very beginning I said, it all sounds good, except I keep hearing over and over repeatedly, oh, the players really like him. Well, here in Detroit, we went through our share of Mr. Nice Guy coaches. We went through, Barry Smith, Dave Lewis, and now Jeff Blashill, who was another Mr. Nice Guy coach. Brian Murray was another one. And every time these Mr. Nice Guy coaches, they turn the team into mush, man. I mean, we went from... The Detroit Red Wings went from making a playoff appearance for 23 years in a row to the first year Jeff Blashill was here, not making the playoffs at all. Maybe the second year. Maybe they did make the playoffs the first year, but definitely not the second year, and they haven't made the fucking playoffs since. And Jeff Blashill was, kind of like Mike Babcock's protege, they said, except the players all really like him. And Babcock, they did everything but beg him to stay here in Detroit. He decided to leave in the end. They were, going over his contract, and what it boiled down to is that he wanted more control over the draft picks. Who the Detroit Red Wings got, because he saw where it was going. You're looking at a team here you've got a lot of veteran players that are going to be retiring and whatnot. And you gotta start building. And when you're number one in the NHL, the draft picks are fucking few and far between. So our wonderful general manager Kenny Holland, who's gone, thank God, he's the one that he wouldn't do it. And so Babs ended up, long story short, he goes to Toronto Maple Leafs, which I thought, boy, that's cool, because the Toronto Maple Leafs were the fucking the worst team in the fucking league. And he went there because he wanted to build something. From scratch. And so he gets to Toronto, and Toronto hadn't made a playoff appearance. I think in 11 years they made one playoff appearance, and especially the past several years, I mean, they weren't about shit. The first year, I don't think they made the playoffs with Babcock, but the second year they made a playoff run. So, and again, I'm talking about one of the worst fucking teams in the league here, So then they start up this season. And abruptly in November, Mr. Brendan Shanahan, another one of the fucking snowflakes, they come out and they said they fired Mike Babcock. And I'm like, wow, what'd they fire him for, And turned out they fired him for abusing the players. And I'm like, oh, no way, was he fucking them? In this day and age, you kind of think of that. What was he doing, fucking him? No, wasn't fucking him. Turns out in this day and age, the NHL players don't like the way he talked to them. Yeah, so he got fired from it. Probably won't ever coach in the NHL again because of it. We're talking about a guy here who won a Stanley Cup in Detroit, went into deep playoff runs every single year for the 10 years he was here. Not to mention the gold medals, in 1997, Team Canada's gold medal, the World Junior Champs in 2004, the World Champs 2010 Winter Olympics, and the 2016 World Cup, and then, before he came to the Red Wings, what put him on my radar was, this is back in, I think it was like 2003. And the Red Wings were going deep into the playoffs again. Made the finals. Mighty Ducks is who we're facing in the finals. Dude, we're going to beat the Mighty Ducks. There ain't about shit. The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim swept Detroit in 4 games, man. And that's what put him on my radar. That was his second year in Anaheim. His first year in Anaheim, or maybe it was his first year. It was definitely his second year for sure. Maybe even his first year. Took another team, which wasn't really about shit. And they ended up fucking sweeping the best team in the league, to win the Stanley Cup. But nowadays, you can't coach in the NHL if the players don't like the way they're being talked to. So I guess pretty soon, it won't matter anyway, because everybody can have a coach like Jeff Blashill, and then everybody gets a cup at the end of the season. I don't know. It really bothered me. And I talked to my brother about it. I talk to my brother about hockey all the time, but, when Jeff Blashill was named coach, I said the same thing to him, and we talked about it. I said, everything sounds great except how the players really like him, and turns out the Wings haven't done shit since. I think maybe the first year he was here, we got into the playoffs. The Wings haven't done shit. They haven't even been in the playoffs and I think he's gonna go this year probably, but I don't know. It remains to be seen. Of course, we have Steve Yzerman back here in Detroit, and sorry guys, usually the phone's not ringing. I can't see the caller ID, so no ID, no answer. But yeah, man, I mean, if you guys are hockey fans, you guys tell me what you think. I mean, now granted, Mike Babcock has done some. It sounds like he did some unethical shit. He there was one instance apparently that he had his team captain, I think it was in Toronto, write down and rank all the players on the team from best to worst, and then read that aloud to the entire team, which is unethical. But dude, you're playing in the fucking NHL. You're making $2 million a year. Really? Are you really that worried about how a guy's talking to you? You're getting paid to play a fucking game for a living. Massive amounts of money to fucking go and do what, a lot of kids dream of. What maybe we all dreamed of. I know when I was a kid and playing hockey, and everybody had those dreams of maybe one day making it into the NHL, but you actually make it, and you're making. Some of these guys have massive contracts, and that's what your head coach gets fired over. And since he's been fired, there's been players from the past who came out and said, "Oh yeah, I'm still seeing a therapist because of the way he mentally abused me." It's just almost mind-boggling, It's like, mental abuse. The team was a winning team, and that's what you're supposed to be in this for, is the team. Is you're not in it for yourself, you're in it for the team. And the team was winning, which is what you want. Now, like I said, I can't really get on board with some of the really unethical shit that he did, because it's not cool, dude. It's in my opinion, it's not a way to motivate people by, doing those types of things. But I've had some bosses that were complete fucking assholes, and I'm talking about, think about the biggest asshole and then multiply that by 10, and that was my boss for years and years. But and I fucking still don't like him. But when it comes to the wrecking business, I have a lot of respect for him, because he knows exactly what the fuck he's doing. He taught me a lot. Maybe he didn't teach it to me the way I liked it, but I learned it, and because of him, I was able to be a success myself. And not just because of him either. Obviously I had to be there, but But, what I'm saying is that, when you're on a team like that, and you're doing that for a living, getting paid to play ice hockey and getting paid well, I mean, really? That's what your biggest gripe in life is I don't like the way the coach talks to me? I mean, if you don't like the way the coach talks to you, you might as well not be there, because these coaches, I mean, this is a successful coach, and there's a lot of people out there that want to downplay his success, and, go on fucking Wikipedia and look up the cock, Mike Babcock, and you'll see he's a successful coach by every stretch of the imagination. He's a successful coach. But I know I've got some people here from Detroit, and I know a lot of them are hockey fans, and I wanted to kind of bring this up a long time ago and talk about this video. I guess that's kind of why it seems a little awkward now, because I meant to make this video back in November, and I just didn't get to it. And then, of course, sitting around and quarantine and everything, it's been on my mind. And then, of course, I was thinking about Don Cherry, how he got fired, which was complete fucking bullshit. I mean, out of all the things they could have fired Don Cherry for saying over the years, really? This is what they decided to fire him over? They fired him for saying, come on, you guys, buy a poppy, support the troops. I guess in Canada, the poppy is like a little flower or something you can buy, and it's to support the Canadian troops, the army, whatever, the military, Canadian military. And that's what he got fired for? Really? I mean, and go on here YouTube and look up Don Cherry, and I know I've got a couple of videos on with Don Cherry on him, and I mean, he's just a fucking character, man. But there was times where, I mean, he said shit that could have easily gotten him fired, and after all these years, 38 years of him doing it, that's what they're gonna fire him over, because he told people, hey, buy a poppy and support the troops. What's wrong with that? Yeah, it just blows my mind, man. The world we're coming into, the world we're entering, where, I honestly, it would not surprise me if the NFL becomes the NFFL in the very near future, where it will be the National Flag Football League. That would not surprise me. And they say it's because of the concussions, and it's because of this and that and the other. And I understand that, I get that, but when you signed up for that job, you knew what was at stake. You knew your body. This is why these, part of the reason these, guys that play professional sports make the kind of money they do is because, it's a given that future health problems are on the horizon, and not just little future. I mean, fucking go get hit by a fucking 300-pound guy every Sunday, and the practicing and the steroids and everything else. Oh, I know there's no steroids in sports. If you believe that, you're fucking just as ignorant as anybody else, man. There's fucking steroids in sports and all that kind of stuff, I had a friend of mine who was a professional bodybuilder, he that's what he did for a while. And he told me that, part of the reason he got out of it was because he didn't want to fucking be on fucking steroids all the time. He didn't want to be on the juice all the time. And I said, really? There's stuff in there? Even he goes, I don't give a fuck how natural somebody says they are. At some point, you have no choice but to use steroids. And that's the way it is with all sports as well. You don't have a choice. You have to be able to compete. You want to make that $50 million contract, get it renewed for another $50 million, you've got to be able to perform. These guys go through a lot of shit. They put their bodies through a lot of shit. They get paid for that. They understand that there's a good chance of a severe injury at some point in their career, if not multiple severe injuries at some point in their career. And so, especially in the game of hockey where, and then I hear, well, Babcock got fired because they didn't like the way he treated the players. And Brendan Shanahan, of all people, who when he was playing for the Detroit Red Wings, I had a lot of respect for. But since he's gone up into the ranks and he was part of overseeing, in the NHL, the rules and shit like that. I mean, he's a fucking idiot. He's just a crybaby, a fucking crybaby, I mean, it's like, that shit just sounds fucking weak to me, Like, well, Babcock got fired because I don't like the way he talked to me. I don't know, man. If he motivates me and I'm scoring more goals, there's a lot of shit I let slide. when I was, working full time, yeah, and I told you the guy I work for is the biggest asshole you can think of in your life. Multiply it by 10, and then you got my boss, who I love dearly, but I don't like the fucking guy. But I'll tell you what, at the time, I was fucking making good money. I was going up higher in the ranks. I was a success. I was learning things that made me an asset. And so, yeah, I overlooked a lot of things that he said, I took it as part of doing business, and I think that, especially for a professional sports player, part of doing business is, you might not like your boss. I don't know. There's other people that have other opinions on it. They say that, oh, well, you just can't abuse the players. And I agree, you can't abuse the players, but like I said, in the beginning, I said, what do you mean he was abusing the players? Was he fucking them? It's like, okay, if he was fucking them, I could understand. But then when it came out, it's just, oh, well, no, he did this and he did that. And I think the icing on the cake was when he had his captain or whoever it was write down a list of the players and rank them from best to worst, and then read that to the entire team. I think that was probably the icing on the cake, but in all reality, I mean, how much damage did that do? It embarrassed the guy who did it, which he'll get over, and the guys that were ranked the worst players probably motivated them to do better. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Are we becoming a bunch of fucking pussies in the United States? Or have we already become that? I mean, I know as, citizens of the USA, we maybe we already are that in many ways, because, we don't live in countries where, we live in a country where we expect things to be good, all the time. Where most people live in countries that they expect things to be bad all the time. And, I think that's a huge difference in between us and a lot of other countries is, like I say, they expect things to be bad all the time. We expect things to be good all the time. And then when they're not the way we like them, we fucking have a hissy fit and cry and piss and moan and get one of the fucking greatest coaches in the NHL to date fired from his job. He'll probably never work in the NHL again. That's what I got for you for today. It's Thursday, bitches. I'm going to try to do a Friday, bitches video like I used to do all the time. But until next time, you guys tell me what you think about this whole thing. And if you're a hockey fan, I'm sure you'll have a few things to say about this. In other news, you know what the other news is. We're all just kind of hanging out, staying home like everybody else. So I'll talk to you next time. Peace out.